Welcome to the Love Dog Podcast. I am your co-host, Raina Butcher, here with our host, Dr. Sarah Hensley.
What's up?
What's up? Long time no
I know.
see.
We never get to see each other. It's crazy. You live 5 minutes from me.
I know.
And we work together.
And we never really get to hang
see
out.
each other anymore.
Especially like one-on-one.
Yeah. No, we never get one-on-one time.
No, we never get quality time.
I know.
It's sad.
It is sad.
I blame you. It's
I know.
your
It is
kids.
my fault. It is 100% my fault because we have 4 kids in 4 different schools in 6 different sports.
I could not imagine.
Say it again. 4 kids, 4 different schools, 6 different sports.
And all different ages.
All different ages.
I'm exhausted with just you talking about it.
Yes, it is. I mean, just to take a trip is
A big to-do.
Is a big to-do. I mean, we have my mom on board. We have our amazing Hannah. Shout out to Hannah.
We love you, Hannah.
We love you, Hannah. She is our family helper. It takes both my husband and I, my mother, sometimes his mother, and our family helper to make it all happen.
I believe it.
So
I believe it.
I always say I never have a moment of alone time. Like never. Like driving in my car is literally the only aloneness I get. Not that I don't love being around my husband. I do.
Sure.
He's my bestie. But sometimes I just want to listen to a little rap music. You know?
Decompress,
Yeah,
be
and I can't do
alone.
that in front of anybody else
Yeah. It's
because
tough.
they don't like it.
Parenting is tough.
We know. Yeah.
Parenting is hard.
Randy's gritting her teeth right now. You guys don't even know what she's going
Parenting
through.
is really hard. And you know, I mean, it just goes to show that your children will at some point challenge you in some way.
Right, which is kind of a little bit on the lines of the topic of today's podcast.
Yep. So episode 50, which is healing from the parent who never grew up. And we both can relate to this, I feel like.
Yes, we can.
And before we get into the topic, another thing we can talk about is our sponsor, Cozy Earth.
Yes.
And specifically, if you are looking for something for your mother for Mother's Day, Cozy Earth is the perfect gift.
Oh my goodness. You cannot go wrong this Mother's Day with getting literally anything for your mom from Cozy Earth. I highly recommend the pajamas because they're just, you don't want to take them off. They're so comfortable. Viscous.
And they sent
from
your mom
bamboo.
some?
Yes.
They're so sweet. Cozy
They
Earth,
are
I'm
so
telling
sweet.
you.
They're the best company.
They are so kind.
They are stand-up people.
They reached, I mean, obviously they reached out to me and they were like, you know, we want to send both, you know, your mom and Sarah's mom a set of Cozy Earth PJs. And I was like, well, my mom unfortunately passed away 7 years ago, but I sent them to my sister.
Which was really sweet.
Yeah, because she's new to the Love Doc team.
She is on the Love Doc team.
Yeah,
And my mom is now on the Love Doc team.
Yes, it's a family affair.
We
guys.
are all family here. But for real, Cozy Earth, especially the sheets, the comforter, and the pajamas are my 3 favorite things. I also have socks, which are amazing.
I got the jogging suit.
Okay, so we can really vouch for a lot of their items. You definitely want to go check them out at cozyearth.com. They have a 10-year guarantee on their sheets, which is amazing. Their stuff is just so soft. I don't know how to describe the viscous from bamboo other than it is so soft and temperature regulating, and you will get an amazing night's sleep with Cozy Earth. So please visit them at cozyearth.com and use code LOVEDOC and get your mama something nice.
40%
She
off.
birthed you.
Yes, she birthed you. She gave you life.
Yeah.
She deserves a pair of very nice PJs.
Right. Even if she was very emotionally immature as you grew up, which is the topic of today's podcast.
Yes.
Growing up with an emotionally immature parent is something that a lot of us know something about. So I get questions a lot in my practice. How do I set a boundary with my parent or with my in-laws? And that is a harder situation to navigate sometimes than with your romantic partner. I mean, your family of origin, when you are married, is the unit you are supposed to separate yourself from, right? In terms of major obligation or having to do what they tell you to do, right?
Right.
You're your own independent adult, and your parents shouldn't be meddling inside of your relationship. And so I think it's important for people who have come to the realization that they are more emotionally mature than their parent to use that emotional maturity that you have to simply set boundaries and stop trying to get them to understand your position. Emotionally immature people are not in a place where they have the capacity to understand your position and to empathize with you.
And sometimes instead of arguing with the parent, because I think I made that mistake with my mother, like I wanted her to see so badly, like her power, right? How much power she had.
Yes.
And she couldn't get unstuck.
Right.
So she could not grow up
Right.
from really, I mean, the biggest wound that happened to her as a child. I feel like, you know, she was sexually molested at 10. And of course,
so heartbreaking.
Yeah. And of course, you know, I feel like I can openly talk about this because, you know, she's gone. She's in glory. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
And if anything, it can be healing for me because when I learned about that information, it was really traumatic.
Of course.
But, you know, she stayed stuck in just, well, victimhood, which we've talked about in other podcasts. But as I got older and I started to have my own life, I definitely didn't do everything right. And I can look back on some things now and understand why she was doing what she was doing or trying to get me to see something that I maybe couldn't see at the time. But her emotional maturity just wasn't what it needed to be. She would get angry over things that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
You could never tell her if you felt like maybe what she was doing was wrong, even in a constructive way.
I mean, that is really the hallmark of emotional immaturity, is not being able to take criticism. And a lot of people are going to go, well, that's also my partner too, right? Like I'm dealing with an emotionally immature partner.
That's not what we're talking about today.
Right. We're not talking about that today. We are talking about our parents, which of course our parents are who give us our attachment style. So our parents construct our blueprint for intimacy. The first intimate relationship we have is with our caregivers, and they form this powerful blueprint in our subconscious that then goes on to predict how we will behave in intimate relationships for the rest of our lives. And I think if we knew as parents how profound our influence really is, we would all go to therapy before we had
I just
kids.
wouldn't have any.
Yeah, or maybe
I just
not even
wouldn't have
any,
children.
because
I know that's not the answer. That's not the answer.
but what we perpetuate in our society is, oh, kids are resilient. Oh, you just have to be good enough. Yeah, good enough.
That narrative needs to go bye-bye.
It really does. No, we need to be the best we can be. That should be every parent's motivation, to be the best that they can be.
You need to be healed to be a parent.
You do.
Not entirely. That's not possible. But
yeah, I mean, but you have to get, because what ends up happening for these emotionally immature parents is that their nervous systems get stuck in that childlike state and those childlike defenses. They're not able to move through developmental phases in their childhood appropriately that would develop their nervous system and wire their nervous system towards a certain level of maturity and regulation. They get very, very stuck. I can remember, and this is a very, very vulnerable thing for me to share. And again, my father has passed away, and so I would like to believe that he will be okay with me sharing this. But I have seen my father in my life throw a full-on childlike temper tantrum, like full-on childlike temper tantrum. One in particular that I can think of that was really, really bad. One that put my mom into like a state of freeze. And I actually ended up having to intervene and trying to calm him down. Oh, graduated from college. Probably late 20s, early 30s, something like that. And my dad was just somebody that could never, ever, ever take an ounce of criticism. Everything that was wrong in his life, he pointed the finger at someone else. I do think he suffered from some covert narcissism. He was raised by two narcissists. He had a tough childhood. He was physically abused, emotionally abused as a child. And so I definitely take that into consideration looking back on everything. But the hardest thing to do was to tell my dad, hey, you're hurting me. Hey, this doesn't feel good to me. I don't like when you come at me like that, or what you did embarrassed me in front of people, or what you did made me feel small. Never could he ever say, hey, I'm sorry, or you know what, I was out of line. Never.
No, And again, we are talking in a loving way towards both of our parents who have passed. It just so happened that both of the parents that we specifically dealt with that weren't emotionally mature, I think, are now passed.
Yes.
And so we graciously tiptoe around this subject because, again, they don't care.
Yeah, no, they don't care. They're in heaven.
Yeah,
they're rocking with
they're
Jesus.
gone. They don't care. But,
And our goal is to help people
Yes.
navigate this for themselves,
Yes.
right? And so one of the things that I had to do, especially in the last few years before my dad passed, was have some really strong boundaries with my dad. There are a number of times where I had to look at my dad and say, I won't participate in this. This is not healthy. I am not going to be on the other end of this right now. I'm going to leave. Or, Dad, I'm not going to be around you if you do XYZ thing, right? If you do XYZ thing. And I had to set boundaries, unfortunately, for my mom. My mom, I love her. I love you, Mom. And I know you're going to listen to this. Might catch some flack for it. But my mom tends to very much be a people pleaser. And that's what's ingrained into her nervous system, is to be a people pleaser. I think that's because she was the oldest of 5 kids, and her own mother struggled with depression and some other things, and they didn't have a lot of money, and so I'm sure
she's just been taking care of people her whole life.
She's been taking care of people her whole life. That is what my mom knows how to do better than anything, is to take care of people and nurture people. And so she very much became the caretaker for my dad, not only physically, but she really carried the load emotionally in our household as much as she could. Which was a really tough load to bear. I could not have done it, to be honest with you. I could not have gone through what my mom went through. And I'm saying that having revealed the atrocities of my own marriage, right? But one of the things that you have to be able to do with an emotionally immature parent is to set really hard boundaries. But you can set these hard boundaries lovingly. You don't have to get upset. You can just simply say, hey, I can't participate with this for XYZ reason. If you're ready to talk to me respectfully, accept my decision that I've made because I'm an adult, whatever it is, that is the rule of re-engagement. They have to meet that rule of re-engagement, and then you can come back into participation.
Same rules apply, right?
Same rules apply as
With
in a
secure
romantic
attachment.
relationship. Same rules apply. Boundaries are not meant to punish. They're not meant to be ultimatums. They are meant to keep you safe. And you have to safeguard your family and your relationship from any toxicity of your family of origin. And I specifically see this really, really being a problem for dismissive avoidance. I do not know how many couples I have seen.
Because I would think it would be the FA.
No, it's the DA. It's the DA people pleaser who literally pleases everybody else around them except their romantic partner. So they fight for everybody else's approval except their romantic partner, because the high stakes romantic partner is who triggers them to withdraw from intimacy. And so they're almost enmeshed in this weird way with their family of origin. And what I have seen is that they just don't want conflict so badly that they will still allow that parental relationship to dominate even in their romantic relationship. And it tends to be the DA males that have trouble with this, and their mothers.
I could see
right?
it.
So it's like a mother-in-law situation with the daughter who feels very disrespected or feels like mom is trying to meddle in their relationship or make important decisions for their family or criticize their parenting or things like this. And what I tell my DAs is your spouse is number one. 100% of the time, your spouse is number one.
Yep.
There's no one else. There's no living being on this earth that comes before your spouse.
No. Not even your children.
Not even your children. And a lot of people take a problem with that and take up, issue with that. And what I have to say is, well, if you don't put your relationship first, you are not modeling healthy attachment to your children. Your children won't develop securely attached if you are not showing the proper order in terms of family dynamic, right? Like God, spouse, kids.
Right.
Because God covers the marriage and the marriage covers the children.
Exactly.
Right? And the marriage, and a healthy marriage is what helps healthy children grow and mature, right? And protects them against the world.
Yeah.
And the world is tough.
Very.
Right? And there is no
Just had
better
this
protection than
conversation.
two healthy parents in a nuclear relationship. In fact, we know two healthy parents in a nuclear family and I really emphasize the word healthy, is what predicts secure attachment. Two very unhealthy parents in an unhealthy relationship does more harm than two divorced co-parents who can be healthy co-parents to their kids. Right. So there's the nuance there, right? Yes, divorce predicts some bad things in kids, and it does predict insecure attachment, but there's this moderating effect. We call it, in statistics, we call it a moderator, which is something that either increases or decreases the strength of a relationship, right? So the moderating factor is, how did the divorce go, and how good of a co-parent are you? Which really predicts whether the kids will be secure, right?
And it makes sense. Makes complete sense. And I would give anything if my mother was still alive, knowing what I know now and what I've learned from you and learned from, our friendship, to be able to know how to set boundaries in a healthy way, because I never knew how to. It was never modeled to me to know how to do that. And so when she would become reactive over certain things or certain choices that I was making in my life, or just simply, the perfect example is, 6 days before she died, she was visiting and we got in an argument because 17 years after my parents divorced, she still wanted to bash my father to me, and I didn't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. It'd been going on for 17 years and I just couldn't take it anymore. And so and I'll fully fall on the sword here that I absolutely did not handle it correctly, because obviously the correct way would have been how you just described it and how the boundaries that you had to set with your father and say, this doesn't feel good to me, I'm not going to participate. When I probably was more like, are you ever going to get over this?
Right. Right.
Like, I guarantee that was my reaction. So of course she became defensive. It caused a fight. And that was the last conversation I ever had with my mom.
I know that breaks your heart so much.
It does. I've had to do a lot of acceptance, I think, because grief, I accepted a long time ago that guilt is just part of grief.
It is.
And even if you do everything right.
I had a terrible relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I'm ashamed to say this, and I try not to participate with shame, but I was very, very angry at my dad my whole life, because I saw how so much the stress that he put on our family, and I resented him for it. I resented him that he could not keep a job. I resented him that he was lazy. I resented him that he could not pay the bills on time. And I would see the stress that he would cause my mother, and I was very connected to my mom. I was very much a mommy's girl. I was never a daddy's girl, and that's another thing that I resented. Like every female, and so for our male listeners out here that have daughters, please perk your ears up. Every little girl wants to be daddy's little girl and wants a dad that thinks that she is the most special thing on earth and gives her so much attention and loves on her and dotes on her and adores her. And Dr. Phil got it right when he said that, why teenage girls become promiscuous is because they didn't have a dad there telling them that they were the greatest thing on earth. And so the first guy that comes up and whispers in her ear that she's beautiful, she's going to melt like a puddle.
Yep.
Right? Because she's not had it. And we crave that. We crave feeling secure in the father-daughter relationship. Yes. And that is where my chaotic blueprint around intimacy, I think, was truly born, was seeing how chaotic my dad was and how painful my dad was to the family. So then my blueprint became, well, love is painful. Love is chaos. Love is instability. Love is not being reliable. And so who did I pick? I picked another version of my dad, just wrapped up in a different package. Whereas my dad was more covertly narcissistic, my first husband was overtly narcissistic. It was still all about control and having the power. And although your parent might not be narcissistic, just more emotionally immature, which really stems from insecure attachment, it doesn't necessarily matter. You still have to protect yourself from someone who desires to control you when you are an adult.
All right.
And I'm not talking like an 18-year-old adult, right?
Yeah.
Please know I'm not talking about like your 18, your 19-year-old that you're still ushering out into the world. I'm talking about if you have adult children and you're listening to this podcast, your
And you're
job
still
is over.
interfering. Yeah.
I know that you will always see them as your child. I know that you will always want them to make good decisions, but it's not your business anymore.
That's right.
Step back, know your role. Your role is to be a great grandparent if you have grandkids, and to love on your grandchildren. It is not to
And
try
to be supportive
to,
if your child asks for it.
yeah, and of course, if your
Yeah.
child asks for support, be supportive. I mean, I'm not saying if you see your adult child like ruining their life, not to be like, hey, I think you should make a better decision. But then that's where it ends.
Right.
Right? You're not going to actually bombard your way into their life to force them to make better decisions.
I've seen couples who are dealing with in-laws where like the in-laws still want to like make decisions on like who the babysitter is or
Oh, yes.
what house they buy.
Oh my gosh,
or,
yes. You
like,
wouldn't believe what I hear.
ridiculous
You would not
things.
believe, and that's why I'm doing this episode, because you would not believe what I hear.
I can only imagine. I know you hear a lot.
Oh my gosh. And it has topped the charts lately. And of course, I'm not going to reveal these things.
Right.
But I mean, I have clients who have parents that way overstep.
Yeah.
Like absolutely refuse to allow their grandkids to be babysat by anyone else but them. And then they completely disregard the parental rules when they're babysitting. Completely disregard. And that's not cool.
No.
If you have adult children and they're the parents of their children, you're the grandparent, you have to respect their parenting rules. They're parenting their kids how they want to parent their kids, and you can't come in there and if they say, no, you can't give my kids candy, you can't give them freaking candy.
Right.
Or no, my kids can't have this much screen time. Don't let them have that much screen time. There should be a level of respect between parents and children all throughout the parental-child relationship. So I was talking about this last week with someone that you have to be able to respect your children because respect is how they learn to respect other people. Being modeled respect by you as their parent is how they will actually respect you more, right?
And respect themselves.
Right, and respect themselves. And we have this mentality when we're raising kids that it's like, well, because I said so and I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't
The
owe you
dictatorship.
nothing. Right? And it's like, well, you always owe people honesty and respect, and that includes your own children.
Yeah.
And that really becomes important in the relationship with your adult children. You have to start to respect them a little bit as an equal once they grow into an adult.
Yeah. I'm there. I'm living this currently.
Yes.
And I mean, we just had this conversation last night with JP. This is never a dictatorship, buddy. This is open forum.
Open forum.
You respect us, we respect you. You trust us, we trust you.
Yep.
And it's reciprocal, just like with any other type of relationship that you have.
That's right.
And because what I hope that this gives him and that he sees, one, I hope it translates into his romantic relationships and really even his career, his life,
Sure.
relationships with anybody that he has.
Absolutely. And so if you are dealing with an emotionally immature parent, besides boundaries, you need to model respect on your end. I know that you might feel justified in your defenses because it has hurt you for so long, but you're not. Because when you give back what you're getting, you're just as fallible, right?
I just gave you an example. Don't do what I did.
You need to lovingly but firmly keep the boundaries, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And sometimes you have to cut off your parents, and that is the hardest place to land. I follow a couple bigger creators, and there's one in particular that I'm thinking of who her whole account is about how she had to cut off her narcissistic mother and how painful it's been, and all the times that she tried to reconcile and tried to bring her mom back into her life, and every single time she did it, her mom just ended up hurting her even worse than the last time. And you do not have to take devaluation from a parent. You do not have to take degradation from a parent. You do not have to take your parents' advice once you are an adult. It's your world now.
I do want to ask a question because specifically around the topic, like healing from the parent who never grew up. So you've given some examples on what to do now,
Right.
right? But healing from the trauma that the emotionally immature parent can cause is a whole nother journey.
It is another journey, and it's very tied to achieving your attachment security. There's a lot of reparenting involved. I reparented myself a lot, and that's not because I will not put that on my mom. Sure. That has everything to do with my dad. And the reparenting of having a victimized mentality, because that's something that my dad really ingrained in me, is you are a victim, I am a victim. You are not empowered, you are oppressed. Reparenting the way that I spoke to myself when I made a mistake. I think this was the thing that was the hardest for me, because one of the ways that I built defenses against this relationship in my childhood was through perfectionism. If I could be perfect, then I wouldn't catch flack.
Right.
Then I wouldn't be criticized, right? And I did that in every other arena except the actual relationship with my dad. I never tried to be perfect to please my dad. I tried to be perfect to please everyone else. And then I was just angry at my dad, right? But reparenting the perfectionism out of me was a very difficult journey. And I'm still learning, although I would say I'm 150% better than I ever have been in terms of, hey, I messed up. Like, I'm not going to lie. I talked to some really important people. I have some very important relationships with some projects that are coming out. And there's been a couple times I've dropped the ball because I just got my details mixed up. I'm super type B, and Raina's shaking her head. She be, yeah, she be very type B. Like mail piling up, spilling coffee all over it. Like,
she's a hot mess.
Yes, I am the hot mess express in terms of organization.
Yeah.
I am very not organized.
You have a lot of other gifts, though.
I do. And so that's something, again, instead of having shame over that, I'm accepting that that's part of my personality and it's part of who I am, and I just strive to do the best I can.
Right.
And I try to get people around me like you who are very type A to hold me up in those areas.
Yeah.
And that's part of what success does for you, is you learn that I can't be perfect and succeed in every area, but what I can do is I can bring people around me that are better than me at the things that I'm not good at.
Right.
So instead of shaming myself for being imperfect, I have had to reparent myself to not have so much self-shame and self-criticism over imperfections or mistakes. And I see this in my youngest, and it breaks my heart, and I'm actively working as hard as I can with her because she gets it kind of from both sides. Her dad was very perfectionistic and extremely hard on himself. I think there are traces of it, in people that she loves, that she's around. And so when she makes a mistake, she gets down on herself, and she kind of has like this shame response. And so in my parenting journey with her, it's all about, baby, it's okay to make a mistake. People will respect you so much more if you just say, hey, I'm sorry I messed up and I'm going to work hard to correct it, than trying to like make excuses or like and not take accountability or to just even worse lie, right? It wasn't me. I didn't spill that on the carpet. We really reinforce accountability in our household because my own parent could never take accountability. And so then I learned to never take accountability. I could never take accountability. And I refused to see. I somehow could never see it. I could not ever see it. And that's another thing I will give, my late ex-husband. There were probably times where it wasn't all him. Even though, yes, he suffered from a degree of narcissism and there was abuse and infidelity, and none of those things I'm excusing. But are there times where I was probably kind of insufferable too?
Yeah.
Just because of who I was? Yes.
Well, and your own insecure attachment. And,
yes.
And not being, as healed as you are now.
No. And the same-sex relationship in a parental dynamic is very much the most influential. But the opposite sex relationship has its own influence, has its own unique influence, right? And its unique influence is we learned so much about what we should put up with and what we shouldn't put up with.
Yeah.
And from the opposite sex
I
parent.
also think, and this is just something I thought about, when it's the opposite parent in that dynamic, and when there's lack there, because I am a daddy's girl, and I have been.
I know,
my whole
and
life.
it's so pretty. It's so beautiful to watch, and I'm just like, oh, I wish I would have had that.
And I wonder, like we talked a little bit about reparenting, but and healing from this sort of thing, but like inner child work too, I think is really important.
It is,
because
yeah.
I think what happens when the father-daughter or the mother-son dynamic is interrupted, that it interrupts the child, right? And the
It does.
playfulness and the joy, right? Because there's not that safety there to
Yeah.
be playful and joyful.
Absolutely.
And so I think, reparenting is a big part, but I think like doing that deep inner child work as well, and going back to that young girl that you were,
Right.
and being told things like, you're a beautiful princess and you can be whatever you want. And like those things that
You
just
deserve to be loved.
Yes.
And so, and what you can't do to your kids is be like, oh, you deserve to be loved, and then not love them properly. Right. And then treat them with disrespect or lose your temper on them all the time.
gonna have the opposite effect.
Right. And we've all lost our temper on our kids. I don't think there's a single parent that hasn't raised their voice at one point in their parenting journey. Although I would say I can't remember the last time I raised my voice, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah, I don't really anymore.
But I can remember, that's all I remember from my
All
childhood.
my mom did.
That's
all my mom did
all
was
I
yell.
remember from my dad.
Same.
It's being yelled at.
Same. And cussing. And it used to scare me. Like it scared me. And I'm trying to it's interesting
And it's
that
imprinted into your nervous system.
It's interesting that we have this dynamic. We have so many similarities, but
Oh
yet
my
so
gosh,
many
it's crazy.
differences. And I wonder, I'm thinking literally on the spot right now. I just wonder if it's because our relationships with a parent were so similar. It just happened to be that mine was with my mother and yours was with your father.
Yeah. And my dad would do things like throw out like a ridiculously harsh punishment. Like you're grounded for 2 months, right? For something small. And then my mom would have to intervene and be like, that's not reasonable. And one of the things that I think made me close to my mom is that she was very, very willing to intervene and try to protect me. But then what did I learn from that? I learned that you're the boss. The mom is the boss.
Right.
Right? And so I will fully admit I tried to be the boss in my first marriage. I was like, nope, it's going to be this way. Nope, it's going to be that way. And I'm sure I made my first husband, as, again, with all the problems he had, feel emasculated. And so I know we've kind of skewed off topic a little bit because I really wanted to focus more on adult children navigating their parental relationships, especially when it comes to their own romantic relationships. But to answer your question, the reparenting that you have to do. And how do you do that? Well, shadow work is great for that. Shadow work
I assume it includes inner child work too.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Reparenting.
Figuring out what needs did I not have met as a child and then meeting those needs for yourself now. Like the needs that I did not have met as a child, specifically from my father, were having accountability modeled, right? By not criticizing myself harshly if there was a mistake. Because I think when he would come in with these really harsh punishments, then as an adult, when I made a mistake to myself, I would punish myself extremely harshly. Right? So it's not hard to see the correlation there, right?
Yeah.
And so reparenting the parts of yourself that were improperly parented as a child, whether that be, your self-esteem in terms of your outward appearance. I have so many people who are still to this day will say things to me like, oh, my mom's going to be in town and the first thing she's going to say is she can tell I've gained 10 pounds, right? The first thing she's going to tell me is a critical comment about my looks.
A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips.
Oh, yeah.
That was my mom's favorite thing to say to me.
And it's like...
And it seemed innocent at the time, but is it?
No. No.
Because it's stuck with me.
Of course. And
I've worried about my weight my entire life.
Of course.
My entire life.
And my dad very much objectified women. He was very much... He objectified women, crass jokes, inappropriate jokes.
I remember lots of embarrassing moments with my mom. Like when you said that, I was like, ding, ding, ding. Like she would just openly like scream at me in front of friends.
Oh my gosh, me too. My dad would do it too. And it was humiliating.
Yeah, very humiliating.
And so that's another thing, again, having a big shame wound of, I'm kind of ashamed of who I am, right? Because when you're ashamed of your parental family unit as a child, that is so tied up in your identity of who you are. And so I think that contributed to not really knowing who I was for a really long time. Like, who am I? Because I will be whatever you need me to be so that I'm not humiliated or embarrassed. And one of the things I'm so proud of my 14-year-old about, she is so not a follower. She's like, she literally said these words to me this morning. You know what? I'm awesome, and anybody that doesn't like me isn't. And I was like,
sister.
Hey, yes, girl.
Amen.
Because she really is that. Like, I'm going to wear what I want. I'm going to listen to the music I want.
She's very observant, too. Gabby's so observant.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to listen to the music that I want as long as it's not inappropriate, right? And I said, I'm not going to intervene as long as you're not inappropriate. You can be whoever you want to be. Yeah. And, I'm going to do my makeup how I want. I'm going to do my hair how I want. You don't see my daughter following a ton of trends. A few here and there that she likes. If she likes it, she'll do it. If she doesn't, she doesn't. And she doesn't worry about, like, are people going to like me or not like me? Yeah. And I'm so proud of her for that.
She is wise beyond her years.
Oh, gosh. So wise beyond her years.
When we were over there a couple weeks ago, and we were playing the board game.
Yeah.
She looked at me and she said, how old are you? I don't know if you heard her. And I said, how old do you think I am? And she said, well, I know you're younger than Mom. And she was like 34. And I was like,
yes. You're 1 year younger than me.
Lexi
okay?
was like 22. I was like,
I love it.
I just felt like she was observing me from this point of like, because I was kind of being silly with Lexi. And I think she was just observing like me being playful. And like, she was like, how old are you? Like I could just tell that she was really being intuitive in the question that she asked me. Like she's extremely observant.
Very. And just mature. And she actually we just found out like right before this podcast that she made the high school cheerleading squad.
Yay, way to go, Gab.
I'm so proud of her. She's worked so hard this year. And she was transitioning from being a basketball and softball player to wanting to be a cheerleader. And so she had a lot of catch-up work last year to do.
That's tough.
And we had a wonderful young girl come in and work with her 2 nights a week. And she busted her butt, and she just made the cheerleading squad, but that's besides the point. But what I will say is that your kids are watching you, and you can be a model to them of respect and security and calmness and openness. And that will translate to a healthy parent-child relationship when they are adults as well. And you think, oh, when they grow up, they'll be adults and they'll get it, right? And then we'll have this great relationship. Well, I'm here to tell you, as an adult child of an emotionally immature parent that has now passed on, it doesn't work that way. Just because they grow up doesn't mean they're going to love you and respect you if you did not love them and respect them properly when they are children.
That's right. And that's why boundaries are just so, so important.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally told JP on the way to school this morning, when you set boundaries for someone, watch how they act. Yeah. It will tell you who they are.
Yes. Yes.
And I won't get into detail about what we're going through, but it even applies to your parents.
It even applies to your parents. And I want my daughter to set boundaries with me as a kid.
I want my son to set boundaries with me.
There was the other day where I was lecturing a little bit too much. Gabs has ADHD. Again, and she's raised by an ADHD type B mom. Okay. I don't have it together, so I really shouldn't judge her for not having it together. But she didn't go through her cheer tryout material. Like, I think she kind of just expected, like, well, I'm going to skim it. I got the gist of it. And then there was something that she didn't have.
Yep.
And it was like, I mean, I rarely run into save the day. Most of the time I would just let the ship sink because that's the learning opportunity. But I said, okay, It was a headshot. She needed a headshot. And our printer would not print it. I mean, it printed like a ghost figure. Like it didn't have enough ink or something. So I was like, okay, I'll send it to Walgreens and I'll pick it up and I'll bring it to the end of practice for you to turn in. But if she would have planned ahead of time, we would have known that the printer wasn't going to print it right. And, you know, and all of that, right? And I kind of got into lecture mode of like, Gabs, you know, you're going to be in high school. I promise you this year I'm not going to rescue you. You know, if something comes up missing or you don't have what you need, you're going to have to figure out alternatives because that's life. Nobody rescues me, right?
Did she have
and that's
did she have to
controversial.
intervene? Did she have to be like, Mom, I get it?
Yeah, she had to say, Mom, lecturing me right now before my cheer interview isn't going to help me, and I would appreciate it if you would stop.
And that's a firm boundary.
And I said, you're totally right, babe.
Yeah,
You're
JP's
totally
had
right.
to do it with me.
You're totally right.
Because
I
I
said,
can be a control freak sometimes.
I said, I'm lecturing, and that's not going to help you right now.
Yep.
I said, baby, when it comes to really big things in life, you'll always be able to count on me. But like, if like
It's hard.
you're going to have to troubleshoot a whole lot before you bring me into the picture. And I want you to learn that level of responsibility and problem solving.
JP did this to me a couple weeks ago because I cleaned his room. Now, my son's going to be 19. I know it seems a little ridiculous that I still go down and clean his room, but I was having company and a tornado had gone off. An actual bomb had gone off. And I get like he's protective over his, privacy, and he deserves that. I mean, he's almost 19. But he came upstairs and he was very kind, and he just said, Mom, I don't need you to clean my room anymore. And I was like, understandable. I was like, I said, I promise you I was not trying to invade your privacy. He was like, that's not what it's about. I just don't need you to do it anymore. And I was like, that's completely fair. And that's what I mean. Like, it's okay. Like, I take accountability that sometimes I can kind of like, well, I want to control every, space in my home. And it's okay for him to come to me and say, I don't need you to do this anymore. And respect it.
Yeah. In all fairness, though,
he needs to clean his room.
Right? Yeah. Like, I don't want your audience to think you're not saying, it's like, okay, well, then you do it.
I did say that too, just for the record. I was like, okay, well, then you need to clean your room. I respect that. But again, this is about reciprocal respect.
Yes. And reciprocal respect has to happen when your children are young, and it has to happen when your children are adults. Because again, I just really want to hammer in this point that if you take an authoritarian parenting style with your kids, you will get rebellious kids. We know that from the science. We know authoritarian parenting causes rebellion. Think about the kids that went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Did they have controlling parents? I bet you they did.
Yeah, they had a
or
dictatorship.
too permissive parents. That can cause it as well. Too much permissiveness and too much control. There is a sweet spot. We call it authoritative parenting. It is the parenting type that is correlated with the most success and secure attachment. And back a couple, I don't know, maybe months ago, we did a pod on raising secure children. I get so many questions about raising secure children, and I really want to do a course on that. And that's in the
future goals.
Yeah. But I think one thing I want people to take away is respect at any age is always something you owe people, even if that respect is directed towards protecting yourself from someone who is hurting you with their emotional immaturity. So like a boundary is both respectful to them, because enabling people's bad behavior isn't loving. So a boundary is respectful to someone else, and it's respectful to yourself. And just because they are your parent doesn't mean they have the authority to tell you how to live your life, to parent your children. You are the parent. To completely disregard your rules regarding your kids if they are grandparents. To meddle in your romantic relationship in any way without you asking them to. Those things are inappropriate. And you have to be able to lovingly say, nope, you're not doing that. Or if your parent is, say, highly critical of you, right? You know what? This doesn't feel good to me. This conversation feels overly critical and disrespectful, so I think I'm going to remove myself from it. When you're ready to be kind and to be cordial and respectful, let me know, and we'll have talk.
And that's a statement most people can't argue with, right?
Right. And then you walk away.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I had to do it with my dad. I remember like months before he died, me doing it. He had said some really awful things about which was interesting because he kind of came to Christ a little bit on his deathbed, just about how, my beliefs were too narrow, just being a Christian and this and that. And I was like, Dad, I said, I'm never going to waver on my faith in Jesus Christ. I said, I know that you have different religions that you buy into and things that you believe in. I said, but I'm not going to listen to you disrespect my Lord and Savior. That goes beyond what I can tolerate. So I'm going to leave now.
And that's completely fair.
Right. No, because his goal was to challenge me and to make me feel stupid.
Yeah.
About how I'm so close-minded. That was the goal in that conversation. And it was very apparent that was the goal, right? That you're too close-minded. And it's like, there are certain things, I will be very open-minded about, but Jesus Christ not being my Lord and Savior is not something I'm going to be open-minded about.
Yeah. And I think, it's 7 years is a long time. Yeah. In fact, I can't believe my mom's been gone for 7 years.
I know,
it feels like it's been so long. But if anything, I do wish I had the opportunity. There's been so many moments since raising a teenager. And I'll end on this because I think that she deserves this. There's been so many moments that I've wanted to just say, as hard as it was at times with you as my mother, you were right about so many things too. She really was. She was right about so many things. And there were times where I was not doing the right thing and she was doing her best to interfere. She just didn't go about it the right way.
Right. Sometimes it's in the delivery, right? And I would say the same thing for my dad. I think my dad had really good intentions. And when I gave his eulogy at his funeral, because I tried till the day he died to be peaceful with him. And I said there were so many things that he told me when I was growing up that I thought he was crazy and stupid, and that he was actually very right about.
Yeah.
But my dad just didn't have a lot of credibility with me.
Right.
And that's the thing that can hurt you in the parental-child relationship. You'll lose credibility with your kid.
Well, when you resent the parent, right?
Yeah, you're not going to listen to you. You're going to rebel.
There's not a lot of trust there.
No, you break their trust, and they're not going to listen to you to make good decisions.
Yeah.
And so that is why we do owe our children respect. They are little humans.
And trust. Until they break it.
Right. And one of the things that I try to say to my kids is like, thank you for allowing me to trust you with that.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you for allowing me to trust you with that.
Yeah.
Because it puts a whole perspective on that for them. Like, oh, I'm being entrusted with this.
Yeah. That's a big responsibility.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I think that's a great place to wrap up, because trust is always important. Honesty and trust.
Yes.
So, of course, the Achieving Attachment Security Hybrid Group Program is wonderful, no matter what, whether you're not trying to navigate a romantic relationship, a relationship with a parent, relationships with your children.
Yes.
It kind of spans the whole relationship dynamic.
It spans it completely.
And so,
because it changes how you interact with everyone.
I mean, your boss, any relationship. So please go check out Dr. Hensley's services at thelovedoc.com. I'm trying to think of like new things, new announcements.
We have merch now that is live.
Merch.
So
it
please
needs a
check
little
out
tweaking,
our merch.
But the stickers are cute.
The stickers are super cute.
And the trucker hats are cute.
They're very cute.
We need to get some and wear them on like the next episode, especially the one that says Healed by the Love Doc. I really like that one. Those are cute. So yeah, go check out our merch. Go check out Dr. Hensley's services. And of course, for all of our listeners, you can use LoveDoc27 for 27% off any of Dr. Hensley's courses or the hybrid group program.
That's our special discount. Our most specialist.
Most specialist people, which is you.
Which
and
is
we
in a
love
word.
you guys so much.
Yes.
Please continue to tune in, listen, like, subscribe. We are so close to season 2. We're going to get a new set. Lots of exciting things coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned. And until next time, peace, love, and perspective.